Syria's ambassador to the UN has slammed the U.S.-led coalition for perpetrating crimes and supporting terrorism in Syria.
It is now clear for everyone that this coalition has fought everything but terrorism. Its practices prove that its targets and its goals are in harmony with the goals of terrorist groups. It has sown chaos, death, and destruction. It has defied the state authority, and it has assisted ISIL elements, moving them to the eastern part of the Euphrates to carry out its aggressions in Syria.
Jaffery called on the Security Council to launch an investigation into the crimes. He described the U.S.-led airstrikes on the country as illegal and a flagrant violation of international laws. The Syrian envoy to the UN said in one instance, the U.S. used internationally banned phosphorus bombs in its raids on Deir el-Zor province on the 13th and 14th of October, leaving women and children dead. Jaffery also called for an immediate end of the presence of U.S. forces in Syria. Regarding Idlib, he said any Syrian territory will inevitably return to the control of the government. He stressed that Nusra Front terrorists refuse to comply with agreements on Idlib and want to continue the bloodshed. Max Igan is a radio host and political commentator who joins us from let's see, Brisbane. Sorry about that. Okay, very good. Glad I got Brisbane right. We have heard words of caution from Bashar al-Jafari throughout the years and warnings about what the U.S. has done, what its allies have done. But I'm curious why the UN did not take them seriously when a majority of them, if not all of them, have actually been true.
Well, it's because of who controls the UN. I mean, a lot of people are scared to say what they want to say in the UN in case they get vetoed, in case they get sanctions put against them. But it's no surprise that people would be saying this because it's absolutely true. I mean, when looking at the war, the conflict in Syria, people need to cast their minds back and remember the United States wanted to invade Syria. And there was a world outcry which prevented them from doing that. And then just coincidentally, straight away after the world prevented them from doing it, suddenly there is a terrorist group in Syria which wants to overthrow the government. You know, the people in Syria, you can't even rightfully call them terrorists, even though they are carrying out terror activity. What they are really, more rightly they should be called, is a Western-backed mercenary force which was sent in there to overthrow the Syrian government. I mean, the United States has been referring to them as moderate rebels all the time and seeking to back them as freedom fighters. And this should let people know exactly what's been going on. The whole conflict in Syria has been contrived and backed and Western run right from the beginning.
Another thing that he said, along with the Russian ambassador, I must say, is the presence of U.S. forces on their soil, also French and I guess forces from the UK. Perhaps special operatives is a better term, more appropriate term. And this is violating their sovereignty. Why doesn't the UN decide on that when it comes to foreign forces who are not invited by the Syrian government on their soil?
Well, again, it's because of who controls the UN. You know, the UN is a puppet show. It's more of a united dictatorship than anything else. It's got all the nations combined at this one group. They have to do what the people who have the power of veto say. So even if they did make a decision to do something about it, the United States and Israel would just veto the decision. So what's the point of doing it? I mean, the UN is a toothless tiger. It could be something worthwhile if it was actually a United Nations where everyone had equal say. But if that were to happen, I would suggest that Israel and the United States would be thrown out straight away, and these countries would have sanctions put against them. That's why nothing ever gets done. The UN is just there to provide the theatre for the people, so we think we have this united body which is actually going to do something, but it won't because it can't, because of who controls it.
Thank you for that. Max Igan, radio host and political commentator from Brisbane.